Hello, and welcome to our advanced introduction to Spain. For a long time, Spain was considered a sleeping giant. It has more land under vine than any other country in the world. Yet for decades, it trailed behind in volume and reputation. But that has changed. Today, we are looking at a nation that has perfectly blended tradition, think those dusty cellars and American oak, with modern, fruit-forward precision. In this session, we are going to cover three critical pillars of the Spanish wine industry: climate and geography, Spanish wine law, and then two of the key regions, our Rioja and Duero Valley, both of which can be seen in WSET Level 3 wine exams. Now, we cover additional regions in a separate video linked in the description, but you should watch this one first. Let's get going. To understand Spanish wine, you have to understand the geography. Now, we can broadly divide the peninsula into three climatic zones. First, look at the north and northwest coast. Here, the climate is moderate maritime. It is dominated by Atlantic weather systems, meaning high rainfall and humidity. Second, look at the east coast. This is a warm Mediterranean climate. It is influenced by the sea, but it is much hotter and drier than the north. But the area we are focusing on today, Rioja and the Duero, they are defined by the center of the country. This is the Meseta Central, a vast high plateau. The climate here is hot continental. The mountains tend to cut off the maritime influence, so winters are freezing and summers are roasting hot. So, how do grapes survive? Two things. Altitude. The meseta is high. This altitude provides cool nights, creating that high diurnal range that helps retain acidity in the grapes despite the hot days. Our biggest challenges are heat and water stress. Low rainfall means vines are often planted at low densities to reduce competition for water. Now let's decode the label. Spain has a strict hierarchy and uniquely puts a massive emphasis on how long the wine has been aged. Aging is integral to understanding the Spanish mindset for quality wine. Spain does follow the EU system of PDO and PGIs, with PGI again being protected geographical indication. These are labeled Vino de la Tierra, VTIT, and this allows for the broader geographical areas and the use of international varietals. PDO, or our protected designation of origin, this is where the premium wines live. The most common term you will see is Denominación de Origen, or DO. These have specific rules about grapes and viticulture. Above the DO, we have the Denominación de Origen Calificada, or DOC lowercase a. This is the elite tier. To get this, a region must have held DO status for 10 years, and currently there are only two regions that have this prestige, Rioja and Priorat. And then finally, at the top of the pyramid for single estates, we have Vinos de Pago, VP. These are small single estates with high reputations that exist outside the DO system, allowing them to use their own grapes and specific vinification methods. Now, unlike, say, France, where quality is often linked to the soil, think Grand Cru, Spain historically defines quality by the time spent in the barrel and bottle. You need to memorize these four categories for red wines, starting with Joven. These are the wines that may or may not have spent time in oak. They are released the year following the vintage, and all are about that fresh primary fruit. Then we move to Crianza. These red wines must be aged for a minimum of 24 months, with at least 6 months in small oak barrels. Then we move up to Reserva. These are wines from better vintages, and they require 36 months of total aging, with at least 12 months in oak. Then our Gran Reserva. These are made only in exceptional vintages, and these require a massive 60 months. That's 5 years of total aging, with at least 18 months of those being in oak. Now, there are similar, though shorter, requirements for white and rosé wines, but the red wine laws are the most critical for you to know for your exam. Now, before we jump into our regions, let's meet our cast of characters. Tempranillo, this is Spain's premier black grape. It is thick-skinned and medium in acidity. It needs warmth to develop flavors, but if it gets too hot, it loses its acid and balance. That is why it loves those high-altitude climates, or at least areas with a sea breeze. It tends to give flavors of red fruit, think strawberry and cherry, and then takes on spicy leather and tobacco notes from thyme and oak. When I'm blinding it, I often get a sour cherry note from Tempranillo that kind of is a key. Now we also have Garnacha Tinta. This is Grenache. Tinta just means colored. This grape has high alcohol and matures early. It's widely used for rosados or rosés in Navarra, but is increasingly respected for old vine concentrated reds in the Upper Ebro, as well as in other parts of Spain along the Mediterranean coast. Then we have Graciano. This is often a minor partner in blends, but it is a high quality one. It adds some black fruit aromas, some acidity, and tannin to the blend. That all just helps the wine age. Then we have Mazuelo, Cariñena, or Carignan, whatever you want to call it. This is high in acid, tannin, and color. It's kind of a workhorse blending grape. It loves to grow like crazy and has been planted all over the place. Only recently has cropping and controlled fermentation let it really show some lovely potential. On the white side, we have Viura, in other places called Macabeo. This is the main white grape of Rioja. It can be made into fresh, unoaked styles or traditional oak-aged styles with increasing nutty flavors. Now, phylloxera chased a lot of French winemakers over the Pyrenees, and when they came, they brought their Cab Sauv, Merlot, and Syrah with them, as well as Sauv Blanc and Chardonnay. You'll see these noble grapes across Spain, although their use has lost a bit of cred over the past few decades as nationalistic pride has meant a refocusing on the Spanish indigenous grapes. Okay, let's zoom in on Spain's most famous region, Rioja. The Rioja, which is the DOCa, is divided into 3 distinct subregions centered around the river Ebro. We have Rio Alavesa. This is located west of the city on Logroño on the north bank. Now the soils here are chalky. The vineyards are at altitude. This is the foothills of the Cantabrian Mountains. And these produce the lightest wines with the most finesse. Then we have Rioja Alta, also west of Logroño, but on the south bank. High altitude again here means cool and a little bit of Atlantic influence, and it produces elegant, structured wines. And then we have the Rioja Oriental, which was formerly known as Rioja Baja, located to the east. The climate here is very different, continental with hot summers and severe winters. It tends to be too hot for Tempranillo, so Garnacha thrives here, adding body and alcohol to the blends. Now, as far as the winemaking in Rioja, blending is the key to Rioja. A typical red blend is dominated by Tempranillo for fruit, with Garnacha for body, and Azuelo or Graciano for structure. But again, the defining feature is oak. Traditionally, Rioja used American oak, which imparts those distinct flavors of vanilla, coconut, and dill. Today, some producers use French oak for a more subtle spice, but that vanilla note is the hallmark of traditional Rioja. Rioja will show a number of expressions of Tempranillo. Early drinking or jovens will often use carbonic maceration to pop that red fruit character. Those destined for aging will see long extraction and cap management to get lots of extraction to handle that aging. Tempranillo needs this to build those intense reds to compete against the world's big red styles. Now, whites can also be handled in a way designed for aging. Historically, Viura has been aged somewhat oxidatively for years as well. Barrel fermentation has been the norm. You can still find these expressions from Heredia and other, though a brighter, fresher style has become popular recently. Those nutty and golden versions are still out there and are worth a taste just to experience this somewhat rare white style. Now, just northeast of Rioja lies Navarra. This is the DO, historically famous for rosés or rosados made from garnacha. These were harvested early for higher acid, but still some fruity flavors. However, they now produce significant red wines, largely from Tempranillo, often blended with international varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. And we'll see the Joven through Gran Reserva wines now led by Tempranillo, thanks to more modern vine management and extraction techniques. Now, south of the River Ebro, we have the Calatayud Cariñena DOs. The climate here is warm continental with low rainfall. These regions were once known for bulk wine, but they are undergoing a revolution. They're home now to vast plantings of old vine garnacha and Cariñena, or Carignan Mazuelo. And because the yields are low, the wines offer incredible intensity and good value. Now let's move west to the Duero Valley on the high plains of the Meseta Central. We're going to look at the Ribera del Duero DO. Now, this region challenges Rioja for the crown of Spain's best red wine. It is cut off from maritime influence by mountains, leading to short, hot, dry summers and very cold winters. The key here is altitude. Vineyards are planted at over 850 meters, and that high diurnal range preserves the acidity and fresh fruit flavors of the grapes. The wines here are red and rosé only, and the main grape is Tempranillo, but here they call it Tinto Fino. Now, as far as winemaking, due to that intense sunlight, Tinto Fino develops thicker skins here than in Rioja. The resulting wines are deeply colored with high tannins and powerful dark fruit flavors. Winemakers will often use long maceration times to extract that color. Now, these can fit that big red profile that Americans and others are looking for now. Further west along the river is Toro. This is another DO. The climatic conditions here are similar to Ribera del Duero, but often even hotter. The Tempranillo here, another new name called Tinta de Toro, produces wines that are, as expected, full-bodied with intense black fruit and pretty high alcohol due to the heat. You will often find bush vines still used here. And now we start to see garnacha playing a supporting role here. And Toro is growing in reputation with more modern winemaking methods to get extraction in depth. It's good value and becoming very popular. Now, located between Ribera and Toro, we have Rueda, and this is an exception as it focuses on white wine. The continental climate, but cool nights are perfect for the main grape, Verdejo. Now, Verdejo's characteristics, it's pretty aromatic, think peach, melon, but it has a susceptibility to oxidation. And traditional Rueda was oxidative and sherry-like. But modern Rueda is clean and fresh. Winemakers are now using inert vessels, stainless steel, and cool fermentations to preserve that fruit, that bright fruit aromas. Sauvignon Blanc also works here, and it's very widely planted and thrives in this cooler climate. So let's quickly wrap up this tour of northern Spain. We've seen that Spain is defined by its geography. The Meseta Central creates a hot continental climate where altitude is the winemaker's best friend, ensuring that Tempranillo retains its balance. We took a look at the laws, remembering that DOCa is reserved for Rioja and Priorat, and that aging terms like Crianza and Gran Reserva dictate strictly defined periods in oak and bottle. And we've also taken a tour of some of the regions. Rioja, which is the master of the blend, mixing cooler Tempranillo from Alavesa and Alta with warmer Garnacha from Oriental, all just snuggled up in the vanilla kiss of American oak. And then Navarra, the Rosado specialist that's now diversifying into reds. And then we looked at Ribera del Duero, which is the powerhouse producing concentrated Tinto Fino thanks to extreme altitude. And then Rueda, the white wine oasis for Verdejo. Now, these regions prove that despite the heat, Spain produces wines of incredible structure, freshness, and longevity. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video where we head to the Spanish coast and explore some additional fun regions. Enjoy your studies. Cheers.